The New York Giants come up short on Sunday Night Football, 17-7 against the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to break it all down for you coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the promo code LockedOnNFL, written in all lowercase letters, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. Prize Picks, run your game. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work. And as always, welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, and my newcomers, and everybody else in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And on today's show, we're back to where we started, folks. The Giants blew another one, losing to the Cincinnati Bengals 17-7. And what really, really hurt about this one is that the Giants defense played well enough to win. And I'm going to go into that a little later on in the show. But basically, it's the same song. I feel like I say this like, literally every week. Now, the last couple weeks, I haven't been saying it as much because they won last week against Seattle. But this week, I'm right back to the same old song. The offense was offensive, plain and simple. So we're going to start off. We're going to talk about the offense and how many times it screwed the team. Then we're going to talk about the defense, which, like I said, played well enough to win. And then, hey, special teams. They must be jinxed this year because they had some bad luck as well. And the Giants, they just cannot put together two games in a row, two quality football games in a row in which they play complementary football across the board. And it's very, very frustrating, as is the fact that it is frustrating that they can't seem to win in primetime games. So now you see why I hate primetime games, besides the fact that you're up late and you have to rush stuff out. The fact that this team cannot win in prime time just drives me batty. All right, let's get into it, folks. Let's talk about the offense. And folks, look, last week I gave Daniel Jones his props. I thought he had been playing better, quietly been, progressing each week, doing a little bit here and there. I had hoped that he had turned the corner, and he has not. He went right back to the same guy that, I had been screaming about before I gave him his props. So I don't know. Maybe I jinxed him. I don't know. But anyway, Daniel Jones, 22 of 41, which is 53.7% completion rate. That's not going to get it done. And that's not what you want to see from a $45 million quarterback, by the way. You can get somebody for for 1/4 of that to produce that kind of stats. Okay. Now, Daniel Jones has not thrown a touchdown pass at MetLife Stadium in 21 months. I mean, come on. How does this happen? How does this happen? I mean, I get it. He was injured for most of last year, but you would think 5 games into the season, or what are we, 6 weeks in now, 3 home games, you would have thought that somewhere along the line he'd throw a touchdown pass. But here's what really gets me, folks. This is what really grinds my gears. They get down to the red zone in the first quarter. And what does Daniel Jones do? He throws an interception. Okay, now on the play in question, I think the Giants were on the 10-yard line. He had Tyrone Tracy wide open in the flat. Never bothered to look his way. This is what I've been screaming about with Daniel Jones, about Daniel Jones being a one-read quarterback, not going through his progressions and rushing and locking onto his receivers. This is what I've been talking about. And we saw it on this particular play. Now, on the play, BJ Hill, former Giant, by the way, who was traded during the Dave Gettleman era, came in and he hit Daniel Jones's arm just as he was trying to throw the ball over the middle to a receiver in the end zone. And what happened? The ball alley-ooped, and the Bengals came down with it. End of drive, end of scoring opportunity, pretty much end of game at that point, right? The Giants just can't have this kind of play from its quarterback. How many times in this game did the Giants have third and forever? Right? In the first half alone, I think they had 7 third down attempts, and of those, 5 were at least 8 yards or more. And if I remember correctly, 3 of them were double digits. They needed 10 yards or more. Can't have that. Just can't have it. And, look, people will say, well, they were missing Malik Neighbors. Okay, yeah, they were missing Malik Neighbors, but they won last week without him, and that's not to say that Malik Neighbors, they can win without him. They certainly, would be a benefit if they had him. But Daniel Jones this week, just not very good. The decision making, he was overthrowing guys again, underthrowing guys. When a play needed to be made, Daniel Jones came up short. And look, I'm not putting the entire blame on the offense and Daniel Jones. All right. There were other problems. There were some drop passes again. All right. There were a couple of penalties, include, Andrew Thomas, who, by the way, his foot is hurt again. He didn't play well. So there were other factors that led to the offense just not playing well at all. But look, folks, it starts with the quarterback play, the self-inflicted wounds. You had, the interception in the red zone, the 2 missed field goals, which we'll talk about, a little later on in the show. There were easily, at minimum, 9 points left on the field, maximum 21 points. All right. And it got to the point, ladies and gentlemen, where Brian Daboll was like, okay, you know what? We missed the first field goal. So now we're going to have to lean on the offense to try and, to on 4th down. And Daboll, got gutsy. I think he had something like 5. Actually, let me see. I think he had, for 4th down, they went 3 of 5 on 4th down. All right. So 5 4th down opportunities, they converted 3 because, Daboll just figured, okay, you know what? We're just going to go for it. What the heck? So, just the bottom line, the offense was abysmal. Tyrone Tracy, the running back, the young running back, you can make a case and say he was decent. Darius Slayton, he was okay. But the rest of the offense, no good. No good. And, look, again, I wanted to give Daniel Jones his props last week because I felt he deserved it. This week, he does not. He does not. And, if this is how he's going to play, I mean, the guy is 1 in 15 now in primetime games. The fact that he has not thrown a touchdown pass in his home stadium, how does that happen? I mean, only to the Giants it happens. And it's quite frustrating. And if to see the Giants waste such a good defensive effort, just really, really frustrating. And Brian Daboll after the game, hey, it starts with me. Okay, we know, Brian. What are you going to do? What can you do to fix it at this point? I don't know that there is any answer short of, maybe making a change at quarterback, which I don't think they're going to do. But like I said, so the quarterback didn't play well. The left tackle is apparently hurt again. I don't know where they go from here on offense. I really don't. Will Malik Neighbors, who hopefully will be back next week, will that help? Maybe, maybe not. So we'll have to see. All right, coming up next, the defense played well enough to win, so we'll talk about that right after this.
Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by our friends at Hims. Look, sometimes those intimate moments happen spontaneously, and you want to always be ready to perform in the bedroom. That's why Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, and there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. It's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety and effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey, Giant fans, time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including literature, mathematics, fine arts, history, economics, and so much more. There's no better way to expand your knowledge and challenge your mind than to open it to learning something new from Hillsdale College's vast catalog of online courses. Enroll today for free at hillsdale.edu/lockedon. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And how about we talk about something good that came out of the Giants' 17-7 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals? Let's talk about the defense. Defense played well enough to win. They really did. I mean, take away that opening touchdown run by Joe Burrow. And then at the end, obviously they couldn't stop the Bengals. But, look, they put up a good fight. They were efficient. They limited the Bengals to only 17 points. This is a Bengals team that in its 3 prior games had scored at least 33 points. So the 17 points was the lowest points allowed to the Bengals, or the lowest points scored by the Bengals against the team since week 1, when they only scored 10. So the defense, let's take a closer look at what they did. The defense played, let's see, they had 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, a total of 15 pressures per Pro Football Focus. All right, so Joe Burrow, he attempted 28 pass attempts, had 28 attempts. So what does that come to? Roughly 1.86 pressure, or pressure, I should say, on every 1.86 dropbacks of Joe Burrow. That's pretty good. That should be good enough to win, if your offense is performing. So the defense, Shane Bowen did a really good job mixing things up, getting pressure on Burrow, moving him off his spot. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase really kept in check for most of the game, except, here and there. But they didn't go crazy and explode for 200 yards a pop. So that was positive. And hey, can we give some kudos here to Azeez Ojulari? Azeez Ojulari, playing for Kayvon Thibodeau, who landed on injured reserve, had, 6 pressures, 2 sacks, and a team-leading 15.4 pass rush win rate. Pretty good. Azeez was looking forward to the opportunity. Look, it's never been a question of talent with Azeez Ojulari. It's always been about him staying healthy, and he hasn't been able to do that. Hopefully he stays healthy, because the kid has been playing really good with the opportunities that he's gotten. Another guy who played really well this week, Brian Burns. All right, Brian Burns, let me just pull up those stats for you real quick. I think Brian Burns had, let me see. Yep, Brian Burns finished second on the team with 8 tackles. He had 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, 2 quarterback hits. Brian Burns is starting to make plays, folks, and he has been for the last couple of weeks. So no problems with the defense on that end, or at least the outside linebackers. Dexter Lawrence, what can you say? Dexter Lawrence, 3 tackles, was double teamed a lot, as you would expect, but he still managed to get 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 quarterback hit. Good performance up front. The defensive backs, it's interesting. Unofficially, and I'm just going off of my notes here. Haven't had a chance, obviously, to look at the film. Unofficially, I think Adoree Jackson was assigned to. I think he was assigned to Jamar Chase for most of the game, and I think Deontay Banks had T. Higgins for the majority of the game. And again, those 2 guys didn't really break it open. They finished with 7 catches. He got 7 out of 7 targets, 77 yards. Chase had 5 out of 6 for 72 yards. No touchdowns. There were no passing touchdowns by Joe Burrow, just the rushing touchdowns, the 2 rushing touchdowns and the field goals. So the Giants defensive secondary, not too bad of a performance. Again, the whole defense, not too bad of a performance. It was good enough for the team to win. And the one thing you could say about this Giants team is that the defense has been playing well the last several weeks. It really has. Take away, obviously, the week 1 game against Minnesota where nobody played well. Giants have been playing well enough to win on defense. Now, special teams is another story. We're going to talk about that right after this. Hey, Giant fans, Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And you can get in on all the action during weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, when Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Get your payouts in as soon as 15 minutes after you request them. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and we got another loss, 17-7 to the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday Night Football. And just think, folks, we have one more night game at least. That coming up Monday night I think it's in 2 weeks against the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road. Yay! Right? Goodness gracious. These night games, the Giants just aren't good at night games. So, but I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But anyway, there's only one more that I know of. And then that's it for the night games, we hope. All right. Let's talk about the not so special teams. Now, I have to start off by saying this year, the Giants special teams group must be cursed or something, because first Graham Gano gets injured and lands on IR. Then, before that, Gunnar Olszewski, the punt returner, gets injured, lands on IR. Then it was Gano that got injured, landed on IR. Then you had Jamie Gillen, who suffered a groin injury, a hamstring injury, showed up on the injury report late in the week, wasn't going to punt. All right. So they had to bring in a new punter, Matt Hawk. So let's recap, shall we? You have a new punt returner, Amir Smith Marset, who, by the way, let's see, what did he do this week? 2 returns, 1 yard. That's a .05 average. Wow. That means the Giants weren't flipping the field. They weren't flipping field position. Okay. Kickoff returns. Okay. They all went for touchbacks. So, no big deal there. But here's what kind of irked me. All right. So the punting, The coverage was not too bad on the punting. Matt Hawk did a fairly decent job there. 46.8 average, 43.5 net, 2 inside the 20. All right, not too bad there. The field goal kicking. Look, I'm going to look at the tape tomorrow, or actually later today, since I'm recording this in the wee hours of the morning on Monday morning. But when I initially was watching, the TV replay, the hold seemed fine because normally, when you have a new kicking battery, when you upset your kicking battery, and Greg Joseph, obviously he'd been working with Jamie Gillen as his holder, and excuse me, Matt Hawk now, replaced him because Jamie Gillen was inactive. So normally you say, okay, maybe that's the cause of the problem. I don't think that's what caused it. Just again, on an initial glance, it looked like there was pressure coming from that side. And Greg Joseph hooked both of his field goal attempts. I think one was 45 yards, the other was 47. Hooked them wide left. Folks, can't have that. Just cannot have that. If you are a pro kicker, you got to make those kicks. And for those wondering, Graham Gano is eligible to come off of IR after this week. Now, do I think he's going to be ready to go? As of last week, I didn't think so. Basically because he hadn't done much on the side in practice. And, I know Graham is feeling better. I did get a chance to quick, chat with him last week in the locker room. But I didn't get the sense that he might be ready to go just yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do at kicker. They had to keep Greg Joseph on the roster for 3 games because they had signed him off of a practice squad. So I believe now, let's see, they would have had the 3 games. It would have been Dallas, it would have been Seattle, and this one. So now if they wanted to cut him, they could. Do they stick with him and just wait for Gano to come back? What they end up doing at kicker is going to tell us a lot about where Gano is in his rehab. And here's the thing, Gano's got the hamstring. Those injuries are so tricky, folks. You can't rush a guy back just because the other guy that came in is being inconsistent. So really, special teams this week, just part of the problem. Not the sole problem, but a part of the problem. And so now we have a Giants team that is 2-4, had a golden opportunity to, pick up some ground in the NFC East and just couldn't get it done. And, just when you thought that the questions about this team were finally answered, the quarterback, special teams, defense, we're right back to where we started from. The inconsistency is enough to drive a person mad. So we are right back where we started from. Where they go from here, I don't know. I just know that the Eagles are up next. It's a 1:00 game. Thank goodness. It's at home. Saquon Barkley is coming into town. Should be interesting. Will the Giants pull it off? I don't know. I'm not picking them to win. I'm telling you right now, I'm not picking them to win next week. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the downer of a show. Just very, very frustrating, this team. Very frustrating. And look, I don't know what to tell you guys. You deserve better. You all deserve better. Those of you who pour your time and your money and everything, your heart and soul into this team. And I wish I could sit here and say things are going to get better, but I just don't know where they go from here. So maybe I'll feel a little bit better, after I sleep on it, and maybe I'll be able to give you a little bit more clear perspective, but not a good one, folks, not a good one at all. So that being said, I do thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast. I always appreciate you spending time with me. I'll be back on Tuesday with a new show. Hope you will check that out. Hang in there, Giant fans. We're all in this together. So until then, have a good night.